Two people today have come out and said things that I thought were so influential and good that I was going to talk about them. If you have just stumbled across this, my name is Simon Miller, and welcome to my very random vlog series in my very odd setup, which seems to change every time, but that's what life is all about. Variety, diversity, and never knowing what you're going to get. That's like a metaphor for every day you go outside into the world, and it's a lottery. It's a dice roll, and you've got to play it as best as you can. But you would have seen by the title, two people that may never have been talked about in the same sentence, but that's okay. That's what I like. I like to surprise myself, and I like it when the world surprises me. Kit Harrington's probably the bigger of the two, but we're talking about Kit Harrington and Jon Moxley. They're both in the news today for very different reasons. Well, not very different reasons, but in very different spheres. Obviously, Kit Harrington plays Jon Snow on TV's Game of Thrones, officially the biggest TV show ever, or at least some people say. And Jon Moxley is a professional wrestler, used to be in WWE as Dean Ambrose, recently made his debut in AEW. I presume most people watching this know, because obviously I'm a big wrestling fan, and I'm a wrestler as well. I like saying that. Sometimes people go, oh, you're not a wrestler. Well, maybe not a very good one, but one all the same. Anyway, the point being is the two stories that came out today are Jon Moxley did an interview on Chris Jericho's podcast, Talk is Jericho. Go check it out now. Cheap plug for him. It's only fair. That's where I got the information from. About him leaving WWE. And Kit Harrington admitted to checking himself into a rehab center in the lead up to Season 8 recording of Game of Thrones due to personal issues. And when you listen to both of them, or at least extrapolate the information that there is, it certainly seems like both come from a mental health point of view. And if you've never watched the vlog series before, that's what I like to focus on, because I truly believe that more people should be talking about it, and the best way to start the conversation is just to have a conversation as and when we can pull in topics that make sense. And I just thought it was really important. Now, there is a stigma around men anyway. I don't want this to come across, I think it's worse for men. I'm not saying that. But there is a stigma in the sense that it's called toxic masculinity. And you can't say those words on the internet. People go, oh, soy boy and all this kind of stuff. But it's true. Some people, be it because of their upbringing or whatever, or because they're male and the male stereotype is I've got to be a big, strong boy and I don't cry and stiff upper lip. It's bullshit. You want to cry, cry. That's why you have tears. It's not a disease. The reason sometimes you have water in your eyes is because it's your body's way of telling you it wants to cry. It's as simple as that. It's still something we have to. Well, I do it too. If I'm out in public, I think, oh, I can't cry. Of course I can. But again, it's the stigma around it. But that's why I thought it was really, really cool this came out. Now, I imagine that Kit Harrington would rather be left alone right now. But the reason I want to talk about him, we'll start there, is because I was going to flash some of these comments up on the screen. I thought, no, that's giving them too much attention. I'll just talk about them in a more general sense. But there are various websites out there that ran this story. I'm sure you can imagine which ones they are. And I looked through the comments because I was intrigued. You know, a man that puts himself out there on the internet. Sometimes comments I can find fascinating, and sometimes I find them the worst thing on the planet. But so many people on Twitter as well, so many people were saying, oh, Diddums, the poor actor that makes millions of dollars, go get a real job, or just, we don't need to go into it. Just words to that effect, really negative, really just shocking, really. Maybe I shouldn't be so naive or so surprised, but I was a little bit. But there is this idea that, you know, if you're famous or if you're rich or whatever, my battery just died then, by the way, in case the picture changes or anything. Such is life when it comes to cameras. But yeah, if you're famous or you are an actor, which I don't know why that has to come into it at all, you're not allowed to experience mental health issues. And again, well, the big focus in the comments was how much money he had, or that he's a celebrity, or that he's famous. And I'm pretty sure Kit Harrington has come out in some interviews and said he actually finds the pressure of fame quite hard, as you would. It doesn't mean that you don't accept that comes along with the job, but it also doesn't mean you have to embrace it. There's no rules. You deal with life on life's terms, as we said. And Jon Moxley was saying the same thing in his interview. He was saying that, you know, he would get so anxious and wound up due to the creative process that he was struggling with. You know, wrestling is very creative, and he felt like he didn't have a say in any of it. It wore him down to the point of exhaustion. He decided to leave the company for the good of his mental health, said it was nothing to do with let's do with the satisfaction of his career too, but it all ties in. And it was nothing to do with money, to the point he didn't even look at the contract that they gave him. They gave him a new contract, left it in the envelope, never looked at it. And said as well on the interview, you could have given him $10 million and he would have left, because that's not the way he lives his life. He's not going to go out and buy a Maserati. That's an exact quote. And I just thought it was really empowering and really important that these stories got out. Not only because hopefully if somebody is out there and you are struggling, you realize that maybe you look up to one of these two, you think, okay, it's okay for me to feel like this way, because these people that have achieved such incredible things feel that way too. But it also shone a light on this awful approach that some people still have when they read these stories. And it is important to talk about it. There's no point sweeping it under the rug and pretending that it's not there or being ignorant to it, because it's there. And until it goes away, we should absolutely shine a light on it, which is hopefully what I'm doing in a very minute and very minor way today. But you cannot judge, and I get it, even if people that think that I'm not going to change their minds now, they'll think I'm an idiot. They'll go, oh, you big pansy. And what's wrong with being a pansy? Like, how is that an insult? Oh, you big girl's blouse. What are we talking about? It's ridiculous. Like, said in jest, I get it, but some people are deadly serious. Like, emotions and being in touch with your feelings are a bad thing. How is that a bad thing? And how does it affect them? That's the real key. The people that are saying these things don't actually understand how the world works, and they're probably jealous. They're probably jealous of Kit Harrington for being this famous TV star that, women find attractive and men find attractive. It's a sex symbol. And it's this idea that you can only be... But this is the other thing that doesn't make any sense. If you're a big Hollywood actor making loads of money, you can't be depressed. But if you're a hard-working, quote-unquote, steel mill worker, I'm just trying to think of stereotypes, you're also not allowed to be depressed because, that's not very tough, that's not very manly. So who is allowed? Who is allowed to be depressed? That's my answer. Who is allowed to struggle with their mental health? And the answer is everyone. And you think that would be simple, wouldn't you? Because the brain doesn't, and I'm not a scientist or a doctor or anything like that, but the brain doesn't, you can have all the money in the world, and all that means is you no longer have to worry about money. And if you want to go out there and spend it, you can. And maybe your mental health would be worse if you had the extra financial worries on top. But that doesn't mean you're not going to have any other worries or have any other anxieties or have weak moments or have moments where you need to be propped up. And the real important thing, the real key, and the message I think everybody should take away from the Jon Moxley and Kit Harrington thing is they went and sorted themselves out. They put their mental health first. 100%. It is such an important lesson to put out there, and it's such a good example to try and have others to follow, because there's no shame in it. There's nothing wrong with it. And unfortunately, you may be met with some idiots like this who will say the same thing, but they are in the wrong. And that's what's important to talk about today. They are in the wrong. Just because some moron pipes up and goes, oh, you big... Screw him. Screw him. It's not that easy. Of course it's not. And if you're already feeling weak, it can get through your armor. It can make you feel worse. But just because somebody shouts it loud enough on the internet, and the reason you never see the other side is because nice, positive people are like, oh, good for him. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. Like, that's why I try. I'm not saying I'm a nice, but you know what I mean? We can always talk about it more. And there are people out there saying the daftest stuff, and that leads to, some of the stories we've had recently of famous quote-unquote people taking their lives because they can't handle it anymore. And it can be the thing that can send people, not just famous people, anybody, that can send people over the edge is seeing a comment on an article or a YouTube video or a tweet or whatever. Just because you don't understand it, this is the general you, someone I should say, just because someone doesn't understand it doesn't mean they have any authority over the situation. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling weak, if you're feeling sad, whether you're famous, you're a celebrity, you're poor, I don't like the term nobody, that's not fair, but you know what I'm saying. If you need to get help, go and seek help. There is no shame in it. If anybody else doesn't understand, they probably have a bunch of problems they need to go figure out, and they don't know how to do it. So when they see somebody else grabbing hold of the reins, it probably scares them even more. So shout out to Kit Harrington and Jon Moxley. It means nothing coming from me, I know it, but I loved seeing that today. Obviously, I don't like anyone struggling with their mental health, but I loved that. Hopefully we're moving into a culture where you are allowed to just drop everything you're doing and go to a rehab center or quit your job to find something else if that's what you want to do. And fair play to Jon Moxley. Went and got himself another badass opportunity, which he absolutely deserves. And I hope that it sends some kind of message to people as well that just says, it's all right to feel like crap. There are people out there that can help. Go out there, seek the help. So yes, I just thought it tied in nicely to the stuff I often talk about. So I thought I'll talk about that. And obviously more important than all of this, in case it hasn't come across, I hope Jon Moxley feeling good. I hope Kit Harrington's feeling good. And I hope you're feeling good. I hope I feel good. I hope everybody feels good. Mental health is the most important thing in the world. You can't do anything without mental health. Nothing. It will end your days. Jon Moxley was saying it. Some days he woke up and couldn't get out of bed. If that hits you, there's not much else you can do. Even if you're in the job that you think you love. The brain is a crazy thing. It's YouTube. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, leave a comment below. You know how it works. And we'll do another one of these very soon. Appreciate you watching. See you then.